cannot even tell you how many people have asked me to do this, because apparently this guy from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial reminds a lot of people of this guy. So here you go.
I'm an expert witness. I'm saying as an expert witness.
Let's start with the easy question then.
That was pretty easy. Go ahead.
Doctor, you're going to have to just answer the questions.
Okay, sorry about that. Having trouble getting into this side.
You need to just answer the question.
Okay. I'm not sure why we're arguing psychiatry, because I'm telling you what it is.
Dr. Siegel, you just need to answer the question.
Okay.
Mr. Depp fell asleep with ice cream in his hand. That's not vomitous, right?
I was told it was vomitous.
Okay.
It does fit just a little too well, doesn't it?
Massive shout out to everyone that's locked in right now. Welcome back to the Unintentional Juror channel. I go by the name of Heinz, also known as Ketchup Man, and we are here today to discuss the Diddy cases, which has absolutely shocked the world. If you do not know about the Diddy cases, you really should get to know, because every single day there is one new accusation against Diddy. There's always one more. And on the agenda for today, we shall be going through the 3 lawsuits that including the lawsuits by Aliza English that we were discussing on the previous episode. So without further, let's start this stream. Hi everyone. I go by the name of Heinz, also known as the Ketchup Man. Thank you so much for tuning to another episode of the Unintentional Juror podcast. Now, on this podcast, we discuss lawsuits as well as trials that have gone on during the week, as well as and basically whatever there is to discuss in the realm of true crime. We are always on deck every week to go through each and every one of these things, and each and every one of the things that we'll go through. And today we are going through the Diddy lawsuits. There was a lawsuit filed on the 20th of October this month that we're gonna go through, and it was filed by Jane Doe. There was another lawsuit filed on the 15th of October by, let me just get the name up. Apologies for this. It was filed by Ashley Parnham against Diddy. This was on the 15th of October, and we are also going to be continuing from the lawsuit that was filed on the 3rd of March, on the 7th of March. Sorry, on the 3rd of July. Sorry. I'm still getting used to the UK and US dates. So sorry. I mean the US dates. I am based in the UK, so our date format is very different. But yes, this lawsuit was filed on the 10th of July, 2024. Is the Aliza English lawsuit. So we shall be going through that. And also we also shall be looking at the sentencing of Ashley Benefield and the developments there, because what could be happening could be that she could be getting a brand new trial. So we're going to be providing updates there as well. But without further, I'm going to go straight into the lawsuit, complaint by Aliza English, and continuing off from where we left off last week. If you did not, if you missed our episode last week, don't worry, you can go back and watch it after this one. Is episode 11. We went through all the 6 lawsuits that were filed against Diddy, plus the Aliza English lawsuit, which we are going to continue on from now. So without further, let's go. The defendant Thomas was to defendant Combs, as Ghislaine Maxwell was to Jeffrey Epstein. Without defendant Thomas, a woman using her inherent good will as a woman to gain the trust of another woman, coordinating and acting as an avatar for defendant Combs. Defendant Combs would be unable to execute his corrupt sex trafficking organization. Plaintiff is unable to recall details from Miami white parties due to the Let me read that again. Plaintiff is unable to recall details from the Miami quote white parties unquote due to the increased demand that plaintiff engage in illicit narcotics and alcohol use while employed for your defendant Combs. Defendant Thomas and Combs passed off plaintiff to other defendants outside of defendant Jacob, named as defendant does, to be sexually assaulted as part of their ongoing corrupt sex trafficking organization. By the way, I forgot to say this earlier. If you're watching this, massive trigger warning ahead of time, because we shall be going through some really heavy stuff in regards to these lawsuits. It is not for the faint-hearted, so literally this is the trigger warning for a lot of explicit stuff that we're going to be going into in this video. In this live stream. Paragraph 126 goes to, says, upon information and belief, plaintiff believes defendant Combs had hidden cameras in every room of his home in the Hamptons, New York, and Star Island, Miami, Florida. Upon information and belief, defendant Dawes, who were individuals defendants Thomas Combs passed off plaintiff to be sexually assaulted, were filmed by defendant Combs' security cameras sexually assaulting plaintiff while plaintiff is unconscious during the quote white parties unquote in both New York and Florida. Upon information and belief, these individuals and plaintiffs were recorded without their knowledge and consent. Upon information and belief, this treasure trove of evidence in defendant Combs' position may either still be in defendant's possession or in the possession of the FBI, as the FBI has executed a warrant and raided defendant Combs' residencies in April 2024. Defendant Combs make promises of career advancement by way of music artist to plaintiff. Defendant Combs is very forceful, demanding, and does not take no for an answer, and would often threaten to inflict bodily harm and to terminate plaintiff or her then boyfriend, Mr. Gallo, employment, and quote blackball unquote them from the industry if plaintiff did not comply with his demands. As defendant Combs acted and was viewed in such a way to where Mr. Gallo and plaintiff believed he had the power to where the defendant Combs' threats were credible. The defendant Combs uses power and influence to threaten and intimidate plaintiff to continue participating in defendant Combs' corrupt sex and drug trafficking organization. Defendant Combs, in an effort to continue to silence plaintiff and keep her in his sex trafficking organization, offered to help plaintiff enter into the music business as a part of an all-female music group. I believe that would be Danity Kane, if I'm not mistaken, that music group. Anyway, continuing on. Plaintiff knew my girl group when I worked for Diddy. So I'm not sure if let me just quickly look at this. If this is the Danity Kane same group. I don't think so. It could be no, that's not the same group. Yeah, it's probably a different group than that I have. It's not the same group as Danity Kane. I don't think so. It's probably not the same group. Let me see the images. I don't think it's the same group. All right, I don't think it's the same group. Anyway, plaintiff knew of defendant Combs' prowess in the music industry and knew he had the power to help her advance her music career. Plaintiff believed the defendant Combs will fulfill his promises to help her career, just as he had helped plaintiff's then boyfriend's modeling career. Plaintiff, having been professionally exposed to the music industry side of defendant Combs' empire, grew more aware of the true nature of her employment at the quote unquote white parties unquote was grotesque, inexcusable, exploitative, and criminal. Plaintiff's only way to escape defendant Combs was to return to California, where plaintiff did in 2009. Sorry about that. Upon information and belief in retaliation for plaintiff's escape, defendant Combs had plaintiff's then boyfriend, Mr. Gallo, quote blackballed unquote from the modeling industry and had all of Mr. Gallo's campaigns with Sean John removed. Upon information and belief in retaliation for plaintiff's escape, defendant Combs had plaintiff blackballed from the entertainment industry. Defendant Combs' corrupt sex and drug trafficking organization has caused plaintiff lifelong harm. It goes on to say, plaintiff became severely depressed and began to blame herself for being trafficked and sabotaging her own career. Being sex trafficked and abused has led plaintiff into a tailspin of anxiety and depression. In or about 2010, plaintiff was hospitalized for mental illness as a direct cause of her being trafficked by defendants. Damn. Wow. That's really bad. That means she had voluntarily, most likely, I'm gonna continue in a bit, but most likely what has happened here is that she may have voluntarily submitted herself into a psychiatric ward, or may have been sectioned, or we call it sectioned. I don't know what it's called in the UK, but sorry, in the US, but in the UK it's called sectioned, or she may have been involuntarily hospitalized in a mental facility. That's really harsh. That's really hard. Everywhere plaintiff looked, she was reminded of being trafficked by defendant Combs, as he is an inescapable presence in music, television, and film. In the ensuing years, plaintiff has also experienced alcohol and drug addiction, as she attempted to cope with the emotional trauma of being assaulted and trafficked. Plaintiff has also experienced intimacy issues, as she struggles to maintain emotional and sexual relationships with men. Damn. Plaintiff was recently married. However, fears her marriage may fall apart due to her mental breakdowns precipitated by memories of this assault and trafficking. This is a lot. Defendant Combs has altered the trajectory of plaintiff's career, denying her a successful and lucrative career in the music industry. To this day, plaintiff experiences bouts of depression, anxiety, body image issues, feeling of worthlessness, and intimacy issues because of being trafficked by defendant Combs. Plaintiff is a woman of faith, and when she saw news coverage of countless lawsuits initiated by other brave individuals, I would say, but anyway, initiated by brave other individuals against defendant Combs, she knew she had a moral obligation to speak up. Plaintiff feared further violence and or retaliation from defendant Combs in filing this lawsuit, but ultimately decided that it was imperative that she speak her truth, with the hopes that no other individual would have to endure the egregious and heinous treatment she has. Plaintiff seeks justice for herself and for any of other Combs victims. Trafficking and Victim Protection Act. According to plaintiff, she was transported from New York to Florida throughout by defendant Combs for the purpose of engaging in sexual activities. Plaintiff asserts during this time, plaintiff was forced to engage in sex work and perform sex acts to the pleasure of and the behest of defendant Combs. Between 2006 to 2009, defendant Combs forced plaintiff to engage in prostitution and sex work at his homes in Hampton, New York, and Miami, Florida. Plaintiff asserts that the defendants Vibe and PMC were involved in defendant Combs' organized sex trafficking enterprise. Plaintiff asserts that defendants Vibe and PMC's involvement in the enterprise, including providing defendant Combs resources like intentionally and falsely marketing and promoting defendant Combs, quote, white parties, unquote, in his publication as a high-profile networking and social event in an effort to disguise and deceive the real intent of the event, which was to further defendant Combs and its various businesses, including BBE, SGC, CGE, and Vibe and PMC profits. In furtherance of defendants' illegal enterprise, defendants Vibe and PMC ensured defendant Combs and his business BBE this is Bad Boy Entertainment, Sean John Clothing, and CGE appeared overwhelmingly in his magazine, be it on cover or pages inside Defendant's magazine, featuring pages dedicated to Defendant Combs personally or business. Plaintiff believes Defendant's Vibe and PMC engage in Defendant Combs' illegal enterprise to increase visibility and profitability of his own publication. Vibe magazine, through the magazine content affiliation and relationship with Defendant Combs. Plaintiff seeks justice against all defendants for sex trafficking. So she filed claims related to plaintiff likeness and picture. We're not gonna go through them because we're not gonna go through that. Let's go on. Okay, I think that's all we can cover. All of these filings were made because of the law that was passed for all sexual assault victims to come giving them a window to make filings such as this one for old cases that may have passed the statute of limitations. She continues to provide that's Donald Trump in with Diddy at his parties, and this is the first course of action. We're not gonna read through it. We're just gonna I'm trying to get to a part. Hold on. All of this is to say that they use her likeness and images without her consent. Okay, here we go. Defendants committed multiple acts of sex trafficking in violation of 18 USC sex trafficking by foreign coercion in furtherance of an enterprise. As detailed throughout its complaint, defendants knowingly affected interstate commerce by recruiting, enticing, harboring, transporting, providing, obtaining, advertising, maintaining, patronizing, or soliciting by any means a person, plaintiff, to engage in illegal sex acts and sex work. In addition to violating federal law, this act violated the following pursuant to Florida Penal Code 796 and New York Penal Code 230. I wish I knew them off-head, but I am not a lawyer. That dream is yet to come into fruition yet. As detailed throughout this complaint, defendants Bad Boy Entertainment, Sean John Clothing, I Cannot, CGE, Jacob, Vibe, and PMC provided resources to Defendant Combs through their general business partnerships. Defendants BBE, SJC, CGE, Jacob, Vibe, and PMC, and by extension through Defendant Combs, knowingly benefited financially or receiving anything of value in an enterprise which has engaged in an act described in violation of paragraph 1. Let me go to the chat really quickly and read out some of the chat here. So hi random girl, she says mental health holds are called different things depending on the state. Some of the sentences are worded badly. Okay, thank you. Out of interest, what are mental health holds called in the state of New York and Florida? Let me know, random girl, in the chat. Random girl says Jax had an interesting chart where she was breaking down J Ho Low Press. The press case. Yes, Penske Media, which is PMC, Penske Media Company. It showed all the companies that are tied to Penske Media as well as other companies. I may have to go back and look. Yes, please. If you do find it, please send it through in the chat. I would also want to see that because she did do that. Thanks for but I cannot. I think she done it in a video, but I cannot search for it right now. But yeah, if you do have it, do insert a hyperlink in the chat, and I will be able to blow it up big. Okay, so let's go back into the reading. Let's go back into the reading. Defendants BBE, SJC, CGE, Jacob, Vibe, and PMC, and by extension through defendant Combs, knowingly or except act constituting the violation of paragraph 118. Okay. Paragraph 118 USC advertised in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threats of force, fraud, coercion described in subsection E2 of 18 USC 1591 or any combination of such means will be used to cause plaintiff engage in several commercial sex acts. By the way of example, in the summer of 2007, plaintiff was forced to engage in sex work at the quote-unquote white party at defendant's Combs' home in Hampton, New York, with defendant Jacob. The picture included in this pleading of defendant Jacob and plaintiff was taken after plaintiff was forced to engage in illegal sex acts with defendant Jacob at the behest of and demand of defendant Combs. Defendant Jacob, for anyone that may have missed the last show where we went through this, defendant Jacob, I believe it's where the parties. Defendant Sean Combs. It's here. Hold up. Bad boy. Combs. Clones, Enterprise Global. Tamiko, that's not okay. Jacob Aragoff is Jacob. That's defendant Jacob. So for anyone that may have missed the show last week, that's who defendant Jacob is, and we will make references to the other people as we get to them. But yeah, that's who the defendant Jacob is for anyone who is confused. He is from Uzbekistan. And he has been mentioned in this lawsuit several times. Defendant Combs forced plaintiff to have sex with defendant Jacob against her will. According to plaintiff and defendant Combs, required sex work and engaging in sex acts as part of the employment at the quote-unquote white parties. Plaintiff was only paid for her services at the party, but not for the sex work she was forced to engage in. By the way of example, between 2004-2009, plaintiff was forced by defendant Combs and Thomas to transport herself to Mr. Combs' home located in Miami, FL. Who is defendant Thomas? Let's go back to the parties. It's going to take me a while to find this. 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Let me just try and find the defendants again. Thomas. Oh, that will be Tamiko, I believe. Yeah, Tamiko Thomas. So this is defendant Thomas, Tamiko Thomas. That's she was part of this as well. Defendant Thomas, upon belief, is a citizen of New York State and was employee of Bad Boy Entertainment, and it says here, defendant Thomas, in our employment capacity, was responsible for transporting and making payments to individuals like plaintiff in furtherance of corrupt organization of sex trafficking on behalf of defendant Combs and the beneficiaries of the corrupt organization, including defendants Jacob, Vibe, and PMC. Okay, let's go back now. I should have really made note of where I stopped, shouldn't I? Okay, that's not where I stopped. Yeah, it's right here. Okay, cool. By the way of example, between 2004 to 2009, plaintiff was forced by defendant Combs and Thomas to transport herself to Mr. Combs' home located in Miami, Florida. Plaintiff, upon information and believes there may be videos showing her by being sexually assaulted while unconscious during the quote-unquote white parties at defendant Combs' Florida residence. from at least 2004 to 2009 in the states of New York and Florida, and possibly elsewhere. Defendant Combs and others known and unknown in affecting interstate commerce knowingly combined and conspired, confederated and agreed to recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, and maintain by any means a person, and to benefit financially and by receiving anything of value from in an enterprise which has engaged in such act, knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion and combination of such means would be used to cause the person plaintiff to engage in commercial sex acts, to wit, defendant Combs, Jacob, and others known and unknown, caused plaintiff to engage in commercial sex acts in the United States cities of Miami and New York by means of force, threats, or force, fraud, and coercion, and a combination of such means, in furtherance of the conspiracy and to effect the illegal object thereof. The following overt acts, among others, were committed in the states of New York and Florida. In or about 2004, defendant Sean Combs, through his employee, defendant Thomas, recruited plaintiff to work for him as an entertainer at his quote unquote white parties. Defendant Combs promised to book plaintiff's then boyfriend in the Sean John clothing campaign. He auditioned for as a model, make plaintiff a music artist, and introduce plaintiff to an ultra-exclusive group of high-profile individuals to further a career in the entertainment industry. In or about 2005, after plaintiff's second quote-unquote white party, defendant Combs began more aggressively grooming plaintiff into engaging in sex work. Defendant Combs directed plaintiff with whom to engage in sex work and would give approval and congratulations after plaintiff complied with defendant Combs' demand. As part of his grooming of plaintiff, defendant Combs threatened that if plaintiff did not continue her employment at the white parties, that defendant Combs would blackball plaintiff from the entertainment industry, and plaintiff's then boyfriend Mr. Gallo from the model industry, when defendant Combs eventually did anyway, which defendant Combs eventually did anyway. Pardon me. At the direction of defendant Combs and Thomas, plaintiff was forced to engage in sex work at defendant Combs' home in Hampton, New York, Miami, and Florida. Plaintiff had no authority to be on defendant Combs' residential premises without defendant Combs' consent. All of the defendant Combs' properties are protected by 24-hour security, and all visitors must be verified before entry. Plaintiff communicated with defendant Combs and Thomas by telephone. Defendant Combs communicated by a California number ending in 1496. However, a search of that number leads to a New York-based artist, Paloma Bailey, as the registered owner. Why or how a number registered to Miss Bailey is being used by defendant Combs is another conspiracy for another time. I got my hat ready, so I'm ready to hear this conspiracy. I actually wish I had tinfoil hat. The number plaintiff communicated with defendant Combs. The number plaintiff communicated with defendant Thomas, is seemingly still registered to defendant Thomas. Tamika T. Trapp is her full name. Tamika Thomas Trapp. Okay. From 2004 to 2009, in the states of New York and Florida, defendant Combs and others known and unknown in affecting interstate commerce knowingly did recruit, entice, these are just repetitions. These are just repetitions of what we read earlier. Let me just continue. Defendants committed multiple acts procuring, and I think these are just repetitions. Repetitions as well. I think these are just repetitions of what we read earlier. So we're gonna skip all of this. But she alleges that Sean Combs committed multiple acts of procuring, transporting, and distributing controlled substances in violation of Title 18 United Code. She also alleges in a lawsuit that defendant committed multiple acts of mail fraud in violation of 18 USC 1341 in furtherance of the enterprise. Defendant committed multiple acts of wire fraud in violation of 18 USC 1343 in furtherance of the enterprise, and also and the second cause of action is for sexual assault and sexual harassment against Diddy. So it goes on to read, we're now reading the second cause of action. Plaintiff incorporates by referencing all preceding paragraph and realleges them as forward. So we've already been through this. We've already been through that. So it says defendant Combs frightened and place plaintiff in apprehension of harm when he forced and coerced plaintiff to engage in sex work for him during his quote-unquote white parties from 2004 to 2009 at defendant Combs' home in Miami, Florida, and Hampton, New York. Defendant Combs used threats, coercion to force plaintiff into engaging in sex work and sex acts with his partygoers. If you're tuned in so far, and you have made it this far, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button, as well as share this stream with your friend. It will really help us in the algorithm. And if you're with us for this long, yeah, you might as well just smash that like button. Yeah. So we're gonna go into a chat really quickly to see what's it to be said. So it says in Florida it's called Baker Acted. In New York it's 939 or 927 for voluntary and involuntary. Okay, cool. Nice. Okay, thank you for that. So that's we just call it sectioned over here, but yeah, it's good to know what it's called in Florida. Thank you, Ranlemgo, for that info. Alana, hi, thank you so much for tuning in. She says hi, welcome back. I can't stay in live tonight, but I hope you're feeling well. Thank you so much, Alana, for saying that. Stay for as long as you want. But yeah, I am feeling a little better, but as you know, it's mental health. I cannot see the wound, so I have to take things a bit easier. But I promise I will be reacting to more trials in the days coming and hopefully I'll be back on my feet very, very soon. But yeah, thank you for saying all of that, Alana, and I hope that you are enjoying the show tonight. So yeah, let's go back into the lawsuit. Defendant Combs directed plaintiff to engage in sex acts with defendant Jacob, who is Jacob Arabov, the Uzbekistani, against plaintiff's will at defendant Combs' white party in the Hampton, New York. Upon information and belief, defendant Combs may have directed others to engage in the sex acts with plaintiff while plaintiff was unconscious at its white party in Miami, Florida. As a result of defendant Combs' conduct, plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer harm, including physical injury, severe emotional distress, humiliation, anxiety, and other consequential damages, for which she is entitled to an award of monetary damages and other relief. Defendant Combs' conduct described herein was willful, wanton, malicious. At all relevant times, defendant Combs acted with conscious disregard for plaintiff's rights and feelings, acted with the knowledge or with reckless disregard for the fact that his conduct was sure to cause injury and or humiliation to plaintiff and intended to cause fear, physical injury and or pain and suffering to plaintiff. Plaintiff believes defendant Combs acted with conscious disregard for plaintiff's rights and feelings, acted with the knowledge or with disregard for the fact that his conduct was sure to cause injury and or humiliation to plaintiff due to plaintiff's gender. By virtue of the foregoing, plaintiff is entitled to recover punitive damages. She also sues for sexual assault and sexual harassment against defendant Jacob. It's just going to be a repetition of what we read earlier. And sexual assault against defendant Does, Jane Doe, I'm guessing, or John Doe. Or it might be, I don't know. There is another person here. And again, it's just the same reassertion. And this is the cause of action, because this is the window that was allowed for them to make this pleading in the first place, to file this lawsuit against all defendants, the NY Victims of Gender Manipulation Violence Protection Act. And that's how this lawsuit was came to be, because of that act, which gave everyone a 1 year window to file claims that they couldn't file before because of the statute of limitations. She filed a 6 course of action against defendant Combs, as well as the Trafficking Victims of Protection Act, so against as well as Trafficking and Victims Protection Act against all the defendants. And the eighth course of action is aiding and abetting and including a sex trafficking enterprise in violation of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act against defendant Thomas Jacob, BBE, Sunjohn Clothing, CGE, Vibe, Penske Media Corporation. I believe that's I believe that's John Doe's or Jane Doe's, or I don't know, an organizational Doe's. I believe that's what it is. And I believe that's the ninth course of action, NIED, infliction, neglect, infliction, emotional distress. NIED. I believe that's intentional emotional distress, or I don't know. I'm not too sure. Let me actually read this one, because I'm not too sure myself. It says, NIED, plaintiff incorporates all by reference all preceding paragraphs and realleges them as self-fulfilling. Defendant created an unreasonable risk of causing emotional distress to plaintiff. I thought so. And defendant knew or should have known that such conduct was likely to result in emotional distress that might or likely would cause illness or bodily harm. Plaintiff's emotional distress was foreseeable to the plaintiffs. That's probably negligent, intentional. No, it can't be. Negligent inflicting of emotional distress is that's probably it. I'm not sure. As a direct and proximate result of the negligent conduct of defendant Combs, plaintiff suffered or and will continue to suffer in severe emotional distress. Defendant Combs' conduct was wanton, malicious, willful, and or cruel, entitling the plaintiff to punitive damages. NIED, sex trafficking against defendant Jacob. NIED, sex trafficking against defendant Tamiko Thomas. NIED, sex trafficking against Bad Boy. NIED, sex trafficking against Sunjohn Clothing. NIED against CGE, Combs General Enterprise, I think it's called. NIED, sex trafficking against the Vibe magazine. NIED, sex trafficking against Penske Media Corporation. NIED, sex trafficking against defendant Doe's John, and defendant, and NIED, sex trafficking against defendant organizational DOEs. So this is the intentional emotional distress, intentional infliction of emotional distress against the defendants. And she 20 2020. That's a law of course of action, and uh, uh, intentional emotional distress against all of the defendants is here. Um, as a and then the 29th course of action, knowing beneficiary in a sex trafficking enterprise in violation of the trafficking and victim protection. So all of this against all the defendants, and I believe they're going back to see the ads that was made to hold up. Okay, let me actually read this. Let me actually read. No. This is, I believe, this is where they were making the ads to have enticed the plaintiff in the first place to go after them. I believe that's her making okay. Obstruction of enforcement of the Trafficking Victim Protection Act. Okay, and I think that's a final course of action. And and this is no, that's not the final course of action. This is the final course of action. It says violation of New York civil rights law, and that the lengthy law. This was a lengthy lawsuit. With their three causes, I don't. If I hear anything in regards to, because this is if I hear anything in regards to this lawsuit, any updates, I will be sure to do a show on it now that we've covered it. But a lot of this were just repetitions of what we've already heard with a little bit of new information that doesn't have any new allegations. So without further, I'm going to be moving forward from this lawsuit to the next lawsuit, which was filed on the 20th of October, and this was filed by Jane Doe. So we're gonna cover Jane Doe, and then we're gonna cover another lawsuit that was filed by Ashley Parham that was filed against Diddy on the 15th of October this month as well. So and then we're gonna end the show off with Ashley Benefield updates in regards to our sentencing. So without further, I'm gonna say make sure you hit the like button if you're because you're still watching till now. So make sure you hit the like button as well as the share button as well as the subscribe button if you like what you're seeing so far. Thank you everyone that are tuned in. Let's continue on. Let's continue on. So the lawsuit is like it was filed by Busby Law Firm. As you can see, it goes through all of the other individuals that are sued Sean Diddy Combs. It goes through Lil Rod lawsuit that I think he was the one that made this allegation, and it goes through claims by Cassie Ventura, Cassandra Ventura, also known as Cassie, and it goes through all the other claims, which we're not gonna cover today. We're just gonna go through the factual allegations. That's who she resides in North Carolina, and let's go through the factual allegations. So it says, on or around December 2022, plaintiff and a 29-year-old independent music artist who wrote, sang, rapped, and produced music was invited to a party in New York City hosted by Combs. Plaintiff was invited along with several of her friends, also independent musicians. Upon arrival, plaintiff observed a large, white, and elegant residence which stood apart from from other homes in the area and was accessed by a long curved driveway. The house was adorned with lavish decor, featuring a grand entryway, a spacious room, and a large glass table. Once inside, servers offered platters of food and drinks, creating a luxurious and upscale atmosphere. Plaintiff quickly recognized various celebrities from the music industry and television, including Combs himself. As plaintiff mingled with other guests, she noticed the widespread use of drugs, including cocaine, pills, and marijuana. Those employed and working in conspiracy with Combs pressured all guests to consume the drugs that were being provided and served by the house staff. Plaintiff declined their repeated offers. That evening, plaintiff drank a single glass of wine, consuming no other substances. At some point during the event, plaintiff was approached by and engaged in a conversation with Combs about her music career. Combs expressed interest in her work, stating his desire to help elevate her career by featuring her on a track. Combs advanced the interaction by inviting plaintiff to his office, suggesting they discuss the advancement of her music career in private. After arriving in the office, plaintiff began feeling disoriented. As if she was slipping in and out of consciousness. It became clear to her at this time that she had been drugged by Combs. A photograph of an actual exemplary container used by Combs and or his agents employees to insert GHB into alcoholic drinks is seen below. This is what was being used. This one was next to a pen. Oh damn. Due to the effects of our drug, I wonder how they obtained this video, these photos. I actually do wonder. I wonder if it's the exact replica, and if this is what it was like at Sean Combs' house, or it's just an example of how they would use one. I believe. I would like to know. Due to the effects of a drugged drink, Combs raped and sexually assaulted plaintiff. Plaintiff could not stop him from doing so, as if she was trapped inside her body, not participating but not able to resist. The next thing plaintiff clearly remembers is waking up at 6 a.m., confused and disoriented, in the same office where the assault took place. After checking herself, plaintiff discovered blood on her legs from her vaginal area and bruising on her lips. Damn, that's horrific. She also found deep imprints on her arms and wrists, suggesting that she had been tied with ropes. Additionally, she felt significant pain and soreness in her vaginal region. Overwhelmed with fear and panic, plaintiff frantically searched for her belongings, including her phone and clothes, but could not find them. Instead, she discovered a pair of pants, a shirt, and slides, which she quickly put on before trying to escape. Plaintiff eventually left the residence. As a result of this incident, plaintiff has suffered significant emotional distress and trauma. She continues to deal with the psychological and emotional consequences of the assault. I want to know when this assault took place, because I have a theory. That all of these things happen or could have happened when he has. All these things could have happened when Diddy has a venture to go on, or he has that all this could have happened when Diddy has, let's say, music out, and they want to feel, how do I say it? They want to feel powerful. So to get that power, to get that feeling of undefeated to put out music, etc., they would engage in these acts. The reason why I feel like this is because if we look back in the times of 1990, 1995, etc., this was his heyday, and there was a lot of music being released at this point. Same thing with 1998, etc. It's just a working theory. It's not based on anything. It's just I'm looking at the time frames this assault would have happened, and I'm trying to figure out how someone could do something like this so many times. There has to be a driving force. Of course, power is one big massive factor, but also what in their psyche, what it might do for them, like a rush or something. They like they I don't know. I'm still in disbelief that someone could be this cold. I'm in very much disbelief. Anyway, like, this is just, it doesn't feel human. It doesn't feel humanly possible. This feels like I'm reading in Satan's playbook or something. Because I cannot, for the life of me, figure out how someone could do this as many times as he has done it if it didn't do something for them. Does that make sense? Like, maybe that's the human in me trying to see, I don't know, but there is just, I'm trying to figure out how someone can do something like this. But yeah, the lawsuit was filed on the 18th of October. Yeah, and now we go on to the next lawsuit, Ashley Parham. And it says, hold up, sorry about this. Okay, all right. Okay, sorry. All right. I'm trying to adjust the volume. All right, cool. Okay, so Ashley Parham, reading her lawsuit. That is plaintiff. Who is Ashley Parham? Let me see. Let me see. That's the first time of me coming across his name. This is Ashley Parham. I believe she's a model. I believe she's a model. She's a model. From Memphis, Tennessee. Okay, so let's read her. Who resides? No. She resides in California. My bad. Not Memphis. According to the lawsuit. Let me just go down. Let's go down to the factual allegations. It says plaintiff may defend. Okay, so the defendants. Let's read the parties. Sorry about that. Defendant Sean Combs, who resides and domiciled in California. Defendant Christina Coram, KK, is domiciled in California. This case is filed in California, I believe. Yeah, it's filed in California. Defendant Shane Pierce. Defendant John Doe 1 to 3, and defendant Jane Doe, who So those are the parties. The factual allegations are as follows. Plaintiff met defendant Shane. Let me actually look up who Shane is. If I'm going to look up Ashley Parnham, I think I should look up everyone else here. So this is Christina. Let's look into Christina Coram. And this was what Diddy said about her in 2021. It says, "Meet Christina Coram, chief of staff at Combs Enterprises. Christina, aka KK, keeps everything in my life and my business running. She's my right hand for the last 8 years and has consistently proven to execute and get ish done. Don't know how I would function without her." Okay, let's move on from Christina to the next defendant. Shane Pierce. Shane Pierce, step up. It's your time to step on the wall of shame. This is Shane Pierce. Now, of course, all of these things, actually, let me just put Diddy so that there is, because Shane Pierce is a very, very common name. Okay. Let me just be sure I have the right one. Okay. Okay, there it is. All right. Yeah, damn. Let me stop feeling myself. Okay, so the Diddy docket. So it says, meet Shane Pierce, a San Francisco Kimpton hotels and restaurant manager. Let me go into this. It says, meet Shane Pierce, a San Francisco and Kimpton hotels and restaurant manager, also a Diddy co-defendant, alleged to have covered up his victim's face with pillow to silence her blood curdling cries before the first of 4 to sodomize her. So that's him, according to the Diddy docket. So yeah, let's go to the next one. There is no next one. That's all there is. Everyone else is John Doe 1 to 3 and Jane Doe. So let's go now into the factual allegations. Zoom in a little bit. Plaintiff met defendant Shane in February 2018 after an altercation with another man at a bar, and defendant Shane came to plaintiff's rescue. While outside the bar with friends and other patrons, defendant Shane FaceTime video called defendant Diddy, and was showing people defendant Diddy in the video on his phone, attempting to impress the people with his famous friend. Defendant Shane then showed plaintiff defendant Diddy on his video call, which plaintiff ignored, stating she was not impressed by him knowing defendant Diddy because she believed defendant Diddy has something to do with the murder of rapper Tupac Shakur. Visible in the FaceTime call was defendant Diddy and some of his children, including his son Christian and Quincy Combs. It appeared from the plaintiff's perspective, defendant Diddy was having a get-together at his home during the time of the FaceTime call with defendant Shane. Defendant Diddy heard plaintiff's statements and made a remark that plaintiff would pay for her statement regarding Tupac and overall dismissal of defendant Diddy. Damn. Wow. So she actually said that out loud. So when she said that she wasn't impressed, she actually said that out loud, and defendant actually heard that, and then she said she'll pay for that. Oh wow. On March 23rd, 2018, defendant Shane invited plaintiff over to his home to assist him with his cancer medications because he stated he was weak and unable to open his medications. Upon plaintiff's arrival, defendant Shane informed plaintiff that he wanted to give her a ride in his new car. Plaintiff and defendant Shane left his residence for a brief period and then returned. Once they returned, defendant Shane left the door to his apartment partially opened and stated that the door was ajar because there was an issue with the door where it couldn't close completely. What's ajar mean? Oh, it means, let me share this. It means of a door slightly open. Okay. Learning something new every day. Defendant Shane was renting an apartment on the lower floor of a home in Orinda, California. Defendant Shane had a separate entrance into his residence that led to the backyard of the home. The home also had a main entrance on Loma Vista Drive. If you're listening this on YouTube, make sure you let me know how you're feeling in the chat. Let me know that you're alive. All right, let's go back into the reading. Defendant Shane rented the home from a woman who lived in the upstairs portion of the home and had 2 dogs who resided with her. Plaintiff and defendant Shane then began to watch a movie, and defendant Shane offered her a glass of water, which he retrieved and brought back to plaintiff. Approximately 10 minutes after plaintiff and defendant Shane returned from their drive, defendant Diddy entered defendant Shane's residence. Defendant Diddy entered the home in a grand, ready-to-party, quote-unquote, manner. His grandiose entrance was so loud that the dogs upstairs began barking. The defendant Diddy did not enter the home through the backyard entrance, but instead through the main entrance. Along with defendant Diddy were his bodyguard, defendant Doe 1, a woman who plaintiff later identified as KK, as defendant KK, another woman, small, skinny build, early 30s with blonde mid-length hair, who plaintiff still has been unable to identify, Jane Doe, defendant Doe 2, who upon information and belief is a friend of defendants Shane and Diddy, and defendants Diddy driver Doe 3, this is John Doe, who remained outside and in his vehicle during the duration of plaintiff's assault. Plaintiff believes defendant Shane invited her over to quote-unquote set her up to be assaulted by defendant Diddy because of the statement she made about defendant Diddy a month prior. Upon defendant Diddy's arrival, he immediately began to antagonize the belief that, stating that she thought she would never see him in person, pay for her statement, quote-unquote pay for her statements about Tupac during the video call, and defendant Diddy called plaintiff. Plaintiff was in shock, and she never believed that she would ever see or meet defendant Diddy in real life, let alone in a small apartment rented by defendant Shane. Defendant Diddy began advancing towards where plaintiff was sitting on defendant Shane's bed with a knife and held it to the right side of plaintiff's face and threatened to give her a Glasgow smile in retaliation for her previous statements on the video call. Yikes. Defendant KK told defendant Diddy she did not think giving plaintiff a Glasgow smile would be advantageous to their potential clients who they could sell plaintiff for sex to. Oh wow, she didn't. Wow, she's just going there. Defendant KK then made a threat to plaintiff that they could ship her off anywhere in the world, and that she would never see her family or anyone she knew ever again. This is why Diddy continued to feel powerful doing this, because she actually had people that actually wanted to be part of this. This is not someone that sounds this does not seem like someone that was coerced into living this kind of life, or it sounds like that she wanted to actually be there, and she wanted to participate in all of this by the way that she's talking. Well, by the way that the plaintiff is alleging that she is talking, I should say. Again, innocent before proven guilty, or proven otherwise, I should say. Defendant Shane then partially undressed plaintiff, then defendant Diddy removed the remainder of plaintiff's clothing, removing the knife from her face, and then retrieved a bottle of liquid from a large fanny pack. Defendant Diddy then squirted a bottle of liquid on plaintiff, which placed her in fear that she was being squirted with a chemical substance like acid. Plaintiff soon realized that the substance was an oil or lubricant, baby oil. Plaintiff was squirted with this liquid substance over the entirety of her naked body. Defendant KK was then told by defendant Diddy to insert what looked like a syringe from a sterile packaging into. I'm not gonna read that. I'm not gonna read that. That's disgusting. That's actually disgusting. What the Defendant KK did as told, and then told defendant Diddy that she was unable to use the IUD because it had prematurely been released from its packaging. Defendant Diddy, upset by this, took this syringe from defendant KK and tried inserting it. Defendant KK and Diddy began to argue as defendants KK continued to advise Diddy that since the IUD had been prematurely released from its packaging, is no way they could insert it. After some time, defendant Diddy heeded the advice of defendant KK and removed the syringe. Defendants KK and Jane Doe then exited defendant Shane's residence, leaving plaintiff alone with defendants Diddy, Shane, Doe's 1 and 2. Defendant Diddy then picked up a television remote that was near plaintiff and violently inserted it into plaintiff's vagina. Defendant Diddy, while violently raping plaintiff with a television remote. This is just horrific. Told plaintiff that her life was in his hands and that if he wanted, he could take her and she would never be seen again. Plaintiff began hysterically crying from the threats by defendant Diddy, along with the pain of violently vaginally raped by defendant Diddy with the television remote, as well as the lingering pain from the audio with the IUD syringe insertion. Defendant Diddy then instructed defendant Shane to turn plaintiff on her stomach, seemingly tired of hearing the plaintiff's blood-curdling cries. Defendant Shane then grabbed plaintiff by her abdomen and hips and turned plaintiff on her stomach. Defendant Diddy then instructed defendant Shane to put a pillow over her head because he didn't want to see her face or hear her cries, and instructed defendant Shane to anally rape plaintiff Ashley Parham. Defendant Shane did as he was told by defendant Diddy and began any rape Ashley Parham. Defendant Diddy then violently raped Ashley Parham anally and defendant Shane. Defendant Doe 2 then joined defendants Diddy and Shane, taking a turn and raping Ashley Parham. Immediately after defendant Doe 2 raped Ashley Parham, he exited defendant Shane's residence. Defendant Diddy then instructed defendant Doe 1 to also rape Ashley Parham. Instead of immediately raping Ashley Parham, John Doe 1 doused Ashley Parham with more oil and lubricants and then jumped on top of Ashley Parham's naked and oiled body, treating it like a slip and slide and knocking the wind out of Ashley Parham due to its enormous size. Defendant Doe 1 then caught himself from sliding over Ashley Parham's whole body and off the bed. Then he began raping Ashley Parham vaginally. While defendant Doe 1 was raping Ashley Parham, defendant Diddy sat in a chair near the bed and began masturbating while recording Ashley Parham's rape by John Doe 1. Another party's phone fell on the bed near plaintiff. Ashley Parham then began to grab the phone, but it slipped out of her hands and onto the floor due to the oil lubricants that have been doused all over her by defendants Diddy and John Doe 1. Diddy began to laugh at Ashley Parham's attempt to grab the phone. Throughout his violent gangbang style of rape, Diddy made constant belittling remarks to Ashley Parham, including that he owned her now. Ashley Parham's body was becoming more and more limp over the course of the violent rape until eventually she had no control over her body, nor could she move her body. When John Doe 1 finished raping Ashley Parham, defendant KK entered the room to examine the condition of Ashley Parham, who was barely able to move or control her bodily functions. Defendant KK examined Ashley Parham to see if she needed assistance and was about to give Ashley Parham an IV fluid. Plaintiff Ashley Parham cannot be certain if she did or did not receive such intravenous intervention. Defendant KK then opened a different bag, different than the one Diddy removed the oil from, where Ashley Parham observed several medicine bottles, IV fluid bags, and other unidentifiable powder-like drugs. Defendant KK then removed a pill from one of the medicine bottles and gave it to defendant Diddy. Diddy then inserted the pill into Ashley Parham's mouth and down her throat, to where Ashley Parham had no choice but to ingest the unknown pill. Diddy, Shane, KK, and John Doe 1 then exited the residence to the backyard, where they smoked marijuana and cigarettes. Plaintiff remained in almost lifeless state in Shane's bedroom until she finally regained her bodily functions. These people are diabolical, like legit. Like, it's like they... How does anyone think in depth to know what cause this would have to your body? Like, Ashley Parham then began looking for her clothes and her purse that contained her car keys and cell phone, but could not discover them in the room or anywhere in the apartment. Plaintiff was only able to find a t-shirt on the floor which she put on to cover her naked body. Ashley Parham also observed a black condom wrapper on the floor of the bedroom, which she assumed was used by one of the defendants, most likely Diddy during the rape. Ashley Parham then grabbed a knife from the kitchen and headed to the backyard where the defendants were smoking, as that was the only way to exit the premises onto the street. Ashley Parham concealed the knife on her left side as she exited the apartment to the backyard area. Upon coming to the exit of the home, which led to the backyard, Ashley Parham was met by John Doe 1, who was standing at the door between the residence and the backyard. By the time Ashley Parham was able to compose herself and come to the backyard, defendant KK was no longer in the backyard but upstairs on the patio and balcony with Jane Doe. John Doe 1 allowed Ashley Parham to walk to the backyard where Shane and Diddy were still smoking. John Doe 1 did not see the knife that plaintiff concealed on her left side, as it was obstructed by the oversized t-shirt Ashley Parham was wearing. Ashley Parham observed Diddy still partially nude from the assault, while Shane and John Doe 1 had on their clothing. Shane then left to the upstairs portion of the patio and balcony where defendants KK and Jane Doe were already situated. Ashley Parham then sat down on a makeshift seat in the backyard when Diddy noticed her presence and remarked that he was surprised she was able to walk because he had given her enough drugs to take out a horse. Jesus. Ashley Parham then asked Diddy what he gave her, and he laughed and did not provide a response. Diddy then made further comments to plaintiff in a jovial, friendly manner, asking why they hadn't partied together before, because it was so much fun and he hadn't had any ass that tight in a while. Damn, these guys are sick. This is actually... John Doe 1 then quipped at Diddy that he probably hadn't had any tight ass that tight because he's not used to having anal sex with women, which Diddy and John Doe 1 laughed at. Ashley Parham then told Diddy she did not party with him and she did not enjoy partying with him and that he raped her. Diddy did not like Ashley Parham's response in his light-hearted commentary and offered Ashley Parham money and instructed Ashley Parham to say that the violent rape was consensual and that Ashley Parham was a sex worker. Oh wow! So that's how he did it. All right. Ashley Parham became enraged and yelled at Diddy that her rape was not consensual and she was not a sex worker, and she refused to take any money from him and would tell the police that he had raped her. Defendant Diddy then told Ashley Parham no one would ever believe she had been raped by him, and if she did tell anyone such that they would harm her family. John Doe 1 then showed Ashley Parham his phone, which looked as if it was outside of Ashley Parham's estranged sister's residence, as she could see her sister sitting on the couch and her sister's spouse on the balcony. It looked as if someone was outside of residence streaming this video to John Doe 1's phone. Ashley Parham, while rattled by what she was seeing on John Doe's one's phone, was still angry about being gang raped, and was not complying with Diddy's request to take the money being offered to say the rape was consensual. Diddy, I admire your bravery. Diddy then called his mother in an effort to further convince Ashley Parham not to report her assault. Diddy's mother yelled at Ashley Parham not hurt her son. Oh my gosh. Ashley Parham told Diddy's mother that her son had violently raped Ashley Parham. Diddy's mother, seemingly unfazed by the statement, then continued her demands with Ashley Parham to take the money being offered and not to report the rape to law enforcement. So you use your own mother. The fact that that press release from the mother is a whole lot BS. Just reading this filing alone, that press release is a whole lot of BS. Diddy then made further threats that he had gotten off from bigger crimes than this, and referred to Tupac again, further antagonizing Ashley Parham. John Doe 1 then turned to defendant Diddy and pulled his gun on him, asking him to repeat what he said in reference to Tupac. As the two of them were exchanging words, Ashley Parham went behind John Doe 1, where he seemingly began to protect Ashley Parham. John Doe 1 then advanced to Diddy, questioning him over the comments he made about Tupac. During this commotion, the neighbor directly across the street came outside and peered into the backyard and asked what all the commotion was about. John Doe 1 then pointed the gun at the neighbor and instructed him to mind his own business and return to his residence. John Doe 1 then turned the gun back to Diddy. Ashley Parham, not far behind from John Doe 1, tried to grab John Doe 1's hand that had the gun. The gun went off and hit a hill behind Shane's residence. Diddy then ran back up stone stairs near the hill in the backyard. Oh, so he does have a witness. It's bullets. Okay. Towards where KK, Shane, Jane Doe were. Ashley Parham charged towards Diddy, moving the concealed knife from her left hand to her right hand and in pursuit of Diddy. Ashley Parham then pushed Diddy from behind while on the stone stairs, causing him to fall with his back to Ashley Parham. Ashley Parham then raised the knife in a rage from the events that just transpired, and with the intent of driving into defendant Diddy's back. When he turned around and began pleading for his life, Ashley Parham, shocked now to see Diddy acting as a victim, at a moment of clarity that turned and ran down the outdoor stone staircase back out to the backyard to escape. Diddy then chased Ashley Parham down the stairs and attempted to push her, but she was already at the bottom of the stairs and gained her footing and wielded the knife at Diddy, grazing his abdomen. Hearing the commotion, KK and Jane Doe emerged, and KK then began administering first aid to Diddy for the injuries caused by Ashley Parham. Ashley Parham tried to make a quick dash for the exit, but it was thwarted by John Doe 1. After a period of time, Ashley Parham was able to abscond from John Doe 1 due to the first aid commotion with Diddy, and was able to run down the street. Once Ashley Parham made it onto the street, she began yelling loudly for someone to call the police. John Doe 1, who are now caught up with plaintiff, advised Ashley Parnham that he was an undercover cop. To this day, Ashley Parnham is unsure of the truth or falsity of that statement. The same neighbor then again emerged from his residence asking what was transpiring. Just as Ashley Parnham was attempting to answer, gunshots began being fired in plaintiff's direction. Ashley Parnham fled to a car near where the neighbor was also taking cover and lost sight of John Doe 1. Ashley Parnham then heard a SUV screeching and speeding, leaving the residence. Ashley Parnham then entered the home of the neighbor, who informed her that he had already called the police. Ashley Parnham informed the neighbor, if just 1 second, just if I may, if this guy was actually an undercover police, questions have to be asked why he engaged in the free cuffs. Like, was that part of the job? Like, surely he could have just stood and watched. Like, I don't believe he is part of the police. He was an undercover cop. I mean, I don't know what undercover cops actually do. Maybe they do take part and they do go that far in for their job. But if John Doe 3, I think John Doe 3 was the one in the car, maybe that would be the undercover. I don't know if they're all undercover, but I have a very hard time believing what John Doe 1 has to say about being an undercover cop. I don't know. That just sounds a bit convenient, if that makes sense. I don't know. Ashley Parnham informed the neighbor that it was Sean Combs who had raped her and shot at them, but the neighbor was unaware who Diddy was. Wow. This guy must be old. Shortly thereafter, even though you're old, I mean, I don't know. This guy must not listen to anything. Like, shortly thereafter, a sheriff from Contra Costa Sheriff Department arrived at the neighbor's home. Ashley Parham told the sheriff she had been violently gang raped by Diddy and others, and that she did not have her clothes, phone, purse, car keys, or cell phone. The sheriff told Ashley Parham and the neighbor that they had received several noise complaints prior to the neighbor's call, and instructed Ashley Parham to find a way to get home. The sheriff did not offer to take Ashley Parham home, nor did he call for emergency services, including an ambulance, nor any offer to take Ashley Parham to the hospital, nor any offer to help Ashley Parham recover clothes or effects from Shane's residence. The neighbor offered to let Ashley Parham sleep on his couch until she could figure out a way to get her possessions and get home. But Ashley Parham declined and only remained at neighbor's residence for a short period of time once the sheriff left. Ashley Parham then went back to defendant Shane's residence, where she found the door open and her clothes were readily accessible in his residence. Defendant Shane then emerged as if nothing had transpired and offered for Ashley Parham to stay at his residence while she slept it off, quote unquote. Plaintiff asked for a purse and key and her keys, but defendant Shane told her she shouldn't leave in her condition, and Ashley Parham, catatonic and in a state of shock and disbelief of the events that transpired, stayed at defendant Shane's home while defendant Shane left the home. Later that morning, defendant Shane returned to the residence and woke Ashley Parham up, and finally gave her back her purse, cell phone, and keys. And Ashley Parham left defendant's residence. In a daze, Ashley Parham returned home and tried to make sense out of what happened to her. On March 26, 2018, Ashley Parnham contacted her primary care doctor and asked for an HIV and STD test in fear of possibly having contracted a disease from a violent grape. Ashley Parnham tried to continue her life as she felt she wouldn't be believed as Ashley Parnham already told Contra Costa Sheriff's defendant Diddy raped her to no avail. Further, Ashley Parnham was under the impression if she did continue to say defendant Diddy's name in relation to her assault, she would not be believed and her family would be in danger. Seemingly, mere days, maybe even the day before Ashley Parnham's vicious rape, defendant Shane had miraculously began driving a new car. Plaintiff believes this was payment by Diddy for setting up Ashley Parnham to be raped. A few weeks later, in April 2018, I can't get over that. You're driving a new car just days after this. Anyway, a few weeks later, in April 2018, Ashley Parnham, still in pain and reeling from the horrific assault, went to the hospital as her injuries had not subsided from the assault. The hospital conducted several tests on Ashley Parnham, including a rape kit, ultrasound, and X-rays. Additionally, Ashley Parnham was given IV fluids to stabilize her vitals as she was in a severe weakened state from being unable to eat and losing a substantial amount of weight since the rape occurred. While at the hospital, Ashley Parnham told members of her treatment team about her horrific assault, and they contacted the Walnut Creek police. Walnut Creek police showed up to Ashley Parnham's hospital room and took a statement regarding her assault on March 23rd. Ashley Parnham had already told Contra Costa sheriffs about her rape and that it was defendant Diddy who orchestrated it on March 23rd, 2018, which was ignored. That is still in the statute of limitations. If that occurred on that day, that would still be in the statute of limitations. Plaintiff declined to refer to Ashley Parnham declined to refer to defendant Diddy again to Walnut Creek police because she believed she would be ignored by Walnut Creek police, just as she was by the Contra Costa County Sheriff, and or would be further harmed by defendant Diddy if he discovered she named him to police. Ashley Parnham only told Walnut Creek police about the assault from defendants Shane and John Doe too. Ashley Parnham believes her statements made to Walnut Creek police while at the hospital was captured by police body camera footage. Ashley Parnham believes her statements made to Contra Costa Sheriff on March 23rd, immediately after the vicious assault, where Ashley Parnham named defendant Diddy directly and by name, was captured by police body camera footage. Ashley Parnham also filed a report to the Orinda Police Department on April 17th, 2018, but again was too afraid to name defendant Diddy as one of her assailants. During this report, Ashley Parnham provided her clothing to the police from the night of the assault, but they all only retained her underwear. To date, the underwear was never returned, and Ashley Parnham believes no investigation ever commenced. She did everything right. This is what you're supposed to do, but it seems that Diddy was just too powerful. It seems like he had someone working in the inside that is of a higher rank that would send instructions down to the officers on the ground on what to do should the name come up or something like that. I'm speculating. I have no idea. But it is just incredible that they only kept the underwear. What are they doing with the? That's just so weird. I already have some. These guys are sickos, man. If I was to vocalize what I'm really thinking up here on what they're doing with that underwear, these guys are sickos, and I'm only basing that on movies that I've seen. This just seems like a really it's not even a thriller. What do I call this? Horror? Maybe a thriller. Because I didn't even want to say it, man. But really and truly, just to paint the picture, what else could they be doing with the underwear? That is just. Anyway, Ashley Parnham sought assistance from therapists in May 2018, one of which tried to have therapy appointments covered by a victims' compensation fund, which was rejected because Ashley Parnham was told no law enforcement agency had opened an active investigation into any of her many reports of a violent gang rape. Subsequently, thereafter, plaintiff asked police for a copy of her report from the Walnut Creek Police Department. On July 19, 2018, plaintiff Ashley Parnham was provided a letter from the Walnut Creek Police Department stating that it was unable to furnish this information as it is confidential and not subject to public release, despite Ashley Parnham not being the public and the victim and complainant. What the hell? In March 2024, Ashley Parnham was re-traumatized by all the events surrounding defendant Diddy, including the several civil complaints filed against him, as well as the raid on defendant Diddy's California and Florida residences. Ashley Parnham called Contra Costa sheriffs again in hopes of renewing her previous complaint and amending it, ensure Diddy's name was included. Ashley Parnham received no response from the sheriff. It's clear which organization or which department has been compromised, and I hope that something happens as a result of this lawsuit to that department, to these departments that have been mentioned. But I'm not going to hold my breath because I doubt these guys are going to do anything about it. Ashley Parnham in July 2024 then emailed the chief of the sheriff's office regarding a complaint, lack of investigation, and how she was treated by the initial responding officer. Ashley Parnham then later received a call back from a detective, but then nothing further. Ashley Parnham then began seeking legal counsel for her claims, on ultimately being referred to undersigned for representation. Undersigned counsel also attempted to get a copy of the 2018 police report from Contra Costa's sheriffs, but was told that they would not provide the report or any other information without a subpoena. And that is it. That is the factual cause of allegations that was made by Ashley Parnham. And all of these are just the cause of actions that was listed. Sexual harassment, cause of action, assault against Diddy, KK, John Doe's 1 and 2, negligence for Shane, negligent of failure to warn from Shane, KK, the John Doe 1 to 3, and Jane Doe. We're not going to go through the course of actions. We're just going to read the title. Intentional infliction of emotional distress against all the defendants, and the negligence infliction of emotional distress against all the defendants. Unjust enrichment. I actually want to know what this means. Okay, let's read this part, and then we're gonna go to the Ashley Benefield case and go through the sentencing there. So as it reads, plaintiff incorporate by reference and reallege each of the preceding paragraphs and all paragraphs below as though fully set forth and brought in this course of action. Defendant Shane received significant revenue, specifically a new car, for his betrayal and his involvement in plaintiff's assault in his role in Diddy's sexual abuse and cover-up enterprise. Other the defendants here named herein received significant revenue for their involvement in Ashley Parnham's assault and their roles in Diddy's sexual abuse and cover-up enterprise. Defendants appreciate and have knowledge of such benefits and retain them to this day. Under principles of equity and good conscience, defendants should not be permitted to retain the profits they received and retain at plaintiff's expense, at Ashley Parnham's expense, while refusing to provide compensation for the injury suffered by Ashley Parnham's as a result of their unlawful conduct, including their failure to guard against, educate as to, or otherwise failure to prevent such injuries inflicted on Ashley Parnham. Under principles of equity and good conscience, defendants should not be able to. I think this just repetition. So basically, is basically asking the courts to freeze or retract all of what had been gained if they have proof of it, by the way, of what may have been gained. That might be a bit hard to get unless she has actual proof, and then she wins the case. Then yeah, it would be given, or it will be enacted. The aiding and abetting is the other cause of action. I'm not gonna go through this. Trafficking and Victims Protection Act. So that's how the lawsuit was able to be. I still think this happened all in 2018. So in California, I believe the last time I checked, the statute of limitations, the law was changed in 2017. So and there was no more limitations on any sort of trafficking, on any sort of sexual assault crime. I don't think it applied to sex trafficking, but it did apply to concert rape, as well as rape, sexual assault of minor, I believe. That from 2017 onwards, there was no more statute of limitations. So since all of this happened in 2018, she still could have brought this case without having to go through this window. But I mean, maybe civilly that wasn't open for them. Maybe it was only open for criminal, because I did not. I'm not sure if what I read back then was only applicable for only criminal cases. I'm not sure how it would apply civilly, and I don't have a lawyer with me to to actually clear this up for me. So yeah, that's as much as I know. I think that's it. And they're just going through the course of action. Obstruction of the enforcement of a trafficking victim protection act, etc. So she's just listing a course of actions to go through. Forced imprisonment as well is being listed as a court. And now that I do know, because that one doesn't fall into the statute of limitation. So yeah, that's one. So let me just go into a chat quickly. Hey Melissa Simuk. I'm not gonna call you Schmuck this time, don't worry. Melissa Simuk, welcome. Thank you so much for saying hi. I hope that you enjoy the show. Thank you for tuning in. We're just wrapping things up here, and we're gonna go into the Ashley Benefield. We've been through the Aliza English lawsuit against Diddy. We also been through the Jane Doe's lawsuit against Diddy that was filed on the 20th of October. We have now completed the Ashley Parnham lawsuit that was filed against Diddy as well. So and this lawsuit was especially shocking More shocking in the fact that she not only escaped, but one of the bodyguards said that he was an undercover police, undercover cop, working. Now I don't know how much I believe that, because there is no way. There is just no way to know if that, because that John Doe one actively took part in the assault. So I have no idea how true his claim of being an undercover cop is. Hey, random girl, hey, don't worry about it. Just happy that you're here again. But yeah, yeah. For just to summarize, and then you have Christina K, who was basically letting her know that they could use her rather than try and kill her. They can use her for the sex enterprise, which I don't think she was protecting her in any way. Like I think that she knows what she gets by doing what she does for Diddy. So no, I don't believe she was protecting her. I believe she is part of this enterprise fully, and she's fully subscribed, just like Shane was, because and she provides a lot of details. Ashley Parnham provides a lot of details in this lawsuit. So like, but the most disturbing part is how two of I think Contra Costa, as well as I forgot the other police department, how brazen they were in not providing help to her. Like the police, like she went to the hospital, she done everything right. She did the right test, and yet they just did not help her at all, even till today. And you can tell that this is just gonna keep continuing. You can tell that they are being compromised. The police have been compromised in this. This lawsuit is, for me, it's shocking. It's definitely harrowing. And now, but one important thing it does do is that it does give a lot of eyes to how Diddy's enterprise works, and she was very brave. I'll just give her a commendation on that. She was very brave to actually vocalize everything that she has vocalized, to record everything that she had recorded, to share with us today, like in this lawsuit. Not many could have had the bravery that she had to stand up to Diddy, not just, and to stand up to Shane as well, to stand up to all of them and be like, no, I'm not taking your money. You raped me. You did this. You did this. Like she was not ready to take part in it. And with these guys, so in their hubris, because they know that they have planted enough failsafe to make sure that this doesn't come out. That's how they are so hubris, because the power in this. I still believe, and to think about this, this happened in April. This happened in 2018. I think it was summer. In September 2018, Sean Combs, Diddy, has also seen Cassie Ventura and raped her in, I'm not sure, was it a restaurant that they were at? I believe it was a restaurant based on Cassie's filing. So, like, it's just again, like, they do these things. The prevailing thought in my head is these things occur so that they can continue to feel powerful each and every time, to continue doing or running their life. Because I can't imagine this. This is like sport to them. Like, can we break this one? And they must get a kick out of it. Like just reading that she gave her the items of clothing, and only the underwear was the one not returned. They kept the underwear. The police. Just reading that alone is just. Let me go back to it. Go back to it. In paragraph 135. Yeah, let me just go back to it. Paragraph 135. This was 3 departments, so I was right. It was Orinda, Costa, and there was something Creek. So I can't remember the other one. Creek. Walnut Creek. So it was those 3 departments, those 3 disgraced departments that allegedly didn't do anything according to this lawsuit. So they didn't do anything to try and help her. But anyway, let me just read on. It says, Ashley Parnham also filed report to the Orinda Police Department on April 17th, but again was too afraid to name Diddy as one of her assailants. During this report, Ashley Parnham provided her clothing to the police from the night of the assault, but they only retained her underwear. Why? Why? That is just creepy, man. I'm sorry. That's just weird as. So what are you doing with that underwear? Did you give it to Diddy? Did you? I don't even want to know. I'm just gonna move on. Let's just move on to make sure that, like, if you like what you saw and you made it this far, make sure you like the stream, and also make sure you share this with your friends, family, dog, whoever's out there. Make sure you let them know of this stream, and also hit the subscribe button as well. We're just gonna go on to the Ashley Benefield trial, to go through what could result in a new trial for Ashley Benefield. So without further, let me just get it up. Let's go into why this may be considered a new trial for Ashley Benefield. Okay, let me just go to it. Okay, so if you have not been following this case, she had killed Doug Benefield in cold blood. She was adjudged to have killed him in cold blood, and it wasn't exactly self-defense because she shot him at the back, and not at the back, not at the back. She shot him at the leg and the side, somewhere on the side. I can't really remember. It was a while ago, but I think it was at the back. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that one. My memory is failing. But there was an allegation here that there was potential juror misconduct. So let's watch.
He gave dishonest answers and incomplete information to the court in response to the questionnaire and during voir dire.
Okay, so they are alleging, the defense is alleging that during that she filled out the reports wrong, and one of the jurors, juror 15, that she had filled out the reports, the juror questionnaire, and did not foreclose the DV history that she had for the defendants to have the opportunity to strike her. So they believe that this had tainted their verdict in some way because she has been through abuse, and well, I'm just gonna let them explain.
Based on that information, Ms. Benefield and her attorneys were not able to make an informed decision as to whether they would exercise a peremptory challenge to her serving on the jury. And the second DCA in the Fegan case says that the defendant has an inalienable right to make a peremptory challenge based on full knowledge and a complete disclosure by the juror. And Mr. Taylor's correct. Whether juror 15 did it intentionally or not is irrelevant under the case law. It's the effect on the defendant and her ability to make an informed decision about a peremptory. It's our position that the most egregious of the omissions by Juror 15 was her failure to acknowledge that she had been involved in domestic violence court. At the subsequent hearing, she acknowledged she was the petitioner in a domestic violence petition, and the court has copies of that petition. At the top of the petition, it says, "Petition for protection against domestic violence," so it makes no logical sense. She wouldn't understand that. She was also, more importantly, the respondent in two domestic violence injunctions, also entitled on top, petition for protection against domestic violence. And in the second one, her husband, and they're both filed by her ex-husband. The first one was her ex-husband and her son, their son, and then the second was on behalf of the son. In the second one, the ex-husband specifically asked for custody and was awarded temporary custody of the minor child. So her answer is that she did not know that she was involved in domestic violence courts are disingenuous and misled the defense in its decision-making process.
Okay, so that is, if true, I'm not sure how far that argument is gonna go. Simply because of the fact that, well, it is not enough. To get a new trial against, like, she didn't disclose this information. You gotta think of, I always go to Ghislaine Maxwell's case, because that juror still lied to get onto the jury. Like, the juror did not disclose her. I think it was his. No, it might have been her. It might have been a she. He or she, never here or there, but they had an history of abuse that they didn't disclose to the court, and that's still when that verdict still stayed, and they still and there was no new trial offered for the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. So I predict the same thing is going to happen here.
Information to review, but I want to go ahead and set the sentencing here a bit on this. What I'm saying is I don't know how I'm going to rule on this. There's quite a bit of information to review, but I want to go ahead and set the sentencing hearing so we have a day and a time, and then depending on what my ruling is, obviously if I grant it, then there is no sentencing hearing. We pick another trial date. If I deny it, then at least we've got it on the record for a sentencing.
Okay, so and whenever the sentencing date that has been set, we shall be covering it here on the Unintentional Juror podcast. So without further, let's just recap and rerun all through. So just to start off with the Ashley Benefield case. So I don't believe that this is going to go anywhere from the defense for the reason of the Ghislaine Maxwell, because it's just not enough. Like, maybe if it happens to a lot of jurors, maybe you can have that say and be like, okay, cool, juror 15, 14, and 13 all lied, or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. But just going by off the Ghislaine Maxwell case, that's just not gonna happen. That's like, they're not gonna grant a new trial just because one juror lied about or did not know that they were supposed to declare that information to both prosecution and defense. I don't think it's gonna lead anywhere. And the example of the Ghislaine Maxwell, that juror knew, and that was still tossed out. So I don't believe this is gonna go anywhere. In regards to the Diddy cases, we read the Aliza English lawsuit. We finished that off, and as well as the Jane Doe lawsuit, but the one that grabbed my attention a lot was the Ashley Parnham one, which is just insane and shows the depths of corruption that's here. That's Orinda, Orinda precinct, Orina Police Station, Contra Costa, Contra Costa Sheriff Department, as well as Walnut Creek. It's weird that all of those departments did not go to help her. I mean, especially when this pains me, because she did like I said, I don't want to repeat myself again, but she did everything possible to ensure that she had everything. It's what I would advise anyone to do. Like, get the rape kit, get all these things on paper. Even if you feel like no one is gonna believe you, still get it in there. At least she went to the hospital to get it done, so there's still a record somewhere. But knowing these police departments, I don't know if they've destroyed those records. But I just wanna say, like, I was moved by her bravery in how she actually made sure that she done all this and get it on record. I was moved by it. So that's all I have time for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Random Girl, Melissa, Shimuk, Alana, thank you for tuning in. And the lurkers, if you've been watching this back on replay, thank you so much for tuning in, and let me know how you're feeling deep down in the comments below. Without further, that is the end of the Unintentional Juror podcast for this week. We shall see you next week for another episode. I shall be posting in the community post where you'll be updated when we have the new episode dropping. So without further, thank you so much. Take good care of yourself and have a great evening. Take care. Bye bye. The show is over, but that does not mean that the fun has to end. And I know how cliche that sounds, but really and truly, the fun really does not have to end. You know how good our streams are and how fun they can be. So we have decided to put them all into a podcast and a playlist format for you to binge on if you so wish. We also do recaps and clips of the best bits, the worst bits, all of those bits, lady bits, every bits, whatever it might be. We do that as well, and we upload onto the channel so in case you guys just you don't wanna watch the full thing, you have the option of watching just the short versions. It's up to you. You have the choice. You have the power, like E-Man. So without further, you can also check out the main Heinz website where we continue the discussions over there, but in a more broader context to try and get into the psychology of why all these things happen. The end screen should be up here so that you guys can see the content you guys can watch. The playlist will be on your left hand side or right hand side, I don't know which one, and the video that and a recap clip should pop up here. So without further, I'll just say bye, and I'll see you on the next stream, and most importantly, the Unintentional Juror podcast. See you there.